the Baen Free Radio Hour.
Hello and welcome to the Baen Free Radio Hour. Today we get part 1 of 2 of Jeremy Comeaux sitting down with editor Jamie Ibson and authors Nick Steverson, Melissa Olthoff, and Kacey Ezell to discuss the anthology Plausibly Deniable. After that, we'll have more One Jump Ahead by Mark L. Van Name, part 53.
Welcome everyone to another episode. I'm your host, Jeremy Comeaux. It's Old Home Week here at the Baen Free Radio Hour. We all got similar starts, including myself, in the writing biz, and so. But enough of that. Let these wonderful authors introduce themselves, and please promote anything you want to promote. And we'll go ladies first. Kacey, if you would start us off.
Okay. Hi, I'm Kacey Ezell. I write emotionally charged adventure, fantasy, and science fiction. One of my most recent releases is what we're talking about today. I have a story I'm sorry, my ring light's kind of this glossy cover, but Plausibly Deniable, edited by Jamie Ibson. So I have a story with Nick Steverson in there, so more to follow on that. And then my next release upcoming is, sorry, I lost my headphone. Blood on the Sand, which I just got my author copies. That'll be April 7th. It's book 2 in my epic fantasy series, available from Baen Books, everywhere books are sold. So you should go check it out.
And if people wanted to find you online and in person, where would they?
So my website is www.kaceyezell.net or .com. Either one works. As far as in-person commitments, maybe a little bit of flux right now, but right now I am planning for sure on LibertyCon and DragonCon. So you guys can come hang out with me there. And yeah.
All right. Melissa?
Melissa, as a smug first reader, would also like to second, yes, y'all need Blood on the Sand because it's freaking awesome. Hi, I am Melissa Olthoff. I write sci-fi and fantasy, and I always put in romance because I write what I love to read. And I was super excited to get included in the anthem that we're talking about because Jason Cordova and I just had this gorgeous thing released, Bronze Legion, To Treaded City and Shores, because we like our titles pretentious here. And the short story that we gave Jamie for the antho ties directly into this book, which was super fun to do. So you can find all of my stuff at melissaolthoff.com or .net. You can find me being ridiculous on every social media platform in existence. And I will be at JordanCon in April. Brandon Sanderson's going to be there. I'm super excited. And I will also be at LibertyCon and DragonCon. So find me there.
Oh, and you can also find Melissa and I right here on YouTube on Feral Ladies. Twice a month, give or take.
Mm-hmm. With Marisa Wolf.
Marisa Wolf.
As always.
Yes.
Yeah,
amazing.
Good catch. I was about to ask you about that. I was like, Feral Ladies.
We're doing so great, you guys. So great.
Yeah, we are doing so great.
All right, Nick, you're up next.
Yeah, I'm Nick Steverson. Mostly do science fiction stuff. My take is usually more adventure, less than mill sci-fi. Just have more fun with it. Some of my most latest releases, Plausibly Deniable here. I wrote the story with Kacey. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then my most recent single solo release was Heads Will Roll. And something little fun fact about Nick, his titles are usually pretty literal and right in your face. So take that as you may. As far as appearances or anything like that, I'm not really doing much this year. I'm kind of focusing on other things. I'm trying to focus more on my writing. Trying to get more out for next year, and then that'll free up time for me to do stuff. We're planned to be at LibertyCon, but we're doing so with the intentions of not actually being there, rolling over till next year. And you can find me at all over the internet, nicksteverson.com.
Awesome. And last but not least, Mr. Ibson.
Yeah. I'm Jamie Ibson. I've written a bunch of stuff in a bunch of different genres, post-apocalyptic, sci-fi, fantasy. written more short stories and novels by a long shot at this point, but I've got one in the can and a sequel follow-up coming up that will relate to Buff Orpington Crosses the Finish Line with two ends, which is the story for Plausibly Deniable. Plausibly Deniable is anthology 8 for me.
I was about to say, you've done a few.
5 We Dares, 1, and then it got weird. Depth Charge with Hank for Bang last year, and then Plausibly Deniable is the latest. My website is ibsonwrites.ca because I am the token frozen hoser north of the ice wall. Ideally 2026 is going to see Buff Orpington versus the League of Conspicuous Evil and Buff Orpington and the Cannibal Chicks of Cancun come out. We'll see whether we get the second one done in time.
You guys should know that I've already started talking smack to the Frozen Hosier about hockey.
Yeah, this guy sent me U.S. is better at hockey than Canada link, and I'm like, dude, you bitch when you can't wear shorts.
I mean,
Florida man.
Hey, it's Florida, man. It can't be under 70. I can't do it.
So my mistake was in applying logic. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm with you, Nick. I'm trying to get out of the frozen north here.
Oh, dude, you're better man than me for moving up there.
Oh no, I've been pissing and moaning the whole time. Anyway, yeah, and Jamie is also the cat wrangler for this lovely anthology, and we'll talk about that. Any fun stories behind the scenes type stuff, because there's always at least one. So let's get started. And so, Jamie, since a lot of the authors aren't on the panel, I'll be referring to you to talk about the stories as much as you can remember. And but first of all, let's talk about the dedication of the book, because we had a fallen soldier. And
okay, so I'm entirely certain that there's going to be plenty of Bane readers out there who know the man and the legend of Jack Clemens. Jack was a bear of a man. He was physically enormous.
Literally, yeah.
I didn't know him until I went to my first LibertyCon, and I was having a conversation with Gary Poole outside the main hall, and Jack walks up and sits on the golf cart that Gary had stolen, and the golf cart does this, and Gary's like, "Oh, hey, Jack, do you know Jamie? Jamie, do you know Jack? Jamie, if you don't follow Jack on Facebook, you should. He's the funniest guy on Facebook." And I was like, "Oh, well, how could I not?" And away we went. A couple years later, I was doing my first anthology, We Dare 1, and I knew that Jack appreciated the cyberpunk genre, and We Dare 1 was all about augmented humans. And I badgered him into writing me a story that is reprinted in Plausibly Deniable. It's called Bagman. It's in cyberpunk dystopian Atlanta, where a bad guy gets hired to do some bad things for reasonably good reasons. It's stylish as hell. It's a great story, and the tragedy of this whole thing is that it's the only thing Jack wrote, and then we lost Jack. Geez, I think we're coming up on 2 years now, isn't it? It was May of 24. He had a stroke, and he didn't come out of it, and it's a friggin' shame that that's how it went, because Jack was, larger than life, but he was also like light the candle at both ends kind of guy. So I had the idea for Plausibly Deniable as an anthology almost since doing the first We Dare, and it was just on my list of, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I did an antho with this theme thing? And so then when I got the green light from Bane, I then went to Tony and said, look, I know that there's a lot of people that know Jack, and I know that Jack has a story that will fit the theme perfectly. May I approach his mom to get permission for a reprint in an otherwise entirely new fiction anthology? And Tony said, yeah, sure, go for it. So Sharon was lovely. Sharon was wonderful. She said yes, and so I thank her in the acknowledgments. And the book's dedicated to Jack and his life lessons, like keeping my bad 20 on hand and trap hoodies at all times and stuff like that. So
have your trap hoodie ready.
That's right. So that's Jack. Read the story and you'll get a little bit of an insight into just how streetsy a guy Jack was. He understood high tech low life like few people do. And I remember there's one video, I can't remember if it's on Facebook or if it's on YouTube, but it's like a law enforcement discussion, and there's a bunch of cops there, and one of the questions is about interacting with, like, okay, you're cut off, you've got no resources, how do you get started, kind of thing. And Jack just launches into this stream of consciousness talk about like beating up drug dealers that are slinging dope at nightclubs because they're there without backup and they're going to have thousands of dollars on them and all this kind of thing. It's like, this guy understands crime in a way really in depth. He wasn't a bad guy, but he knew some bad people. And
he wasn't a bad guy, but he drank with them. right, exactly. That the mud didn't splash, because it absolutely could have. But Jack was a gentleman, and he was tremendous, and we miss him. Yeah.
So that's the dedication, and now I'm gonna pretend I'm not looking for the Onion Ninja.
Yeah. Well, it was a great story. This, so I keep telling this story where I'm not really into anthologies. I haven't, enjoyed anthologies in the past, but I have corrected myself, and it's because of like when the first time I ever drank scotch as a real adult, not a minor adult, where it's like, no, I don't like it. I don't like it until I had good scotch.
The good stuff,
the good stuff. And so, and I've been lucky that lately I've been reading some good anthologies, and this is one of them. And I really enjoyed this one. This one was fun. It also had a lot of action, and it had a little bit of everything. You had military sci-fi, you had spy versus spy, you had just like military action, and there's one, the author's not here, and I really want to talk about this story because it's a fun story. It's the second to last one, right before Orpington's story. What was the name of it?
Oh, is that Mike's with logistics space?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
At first I was like, what is this? And then it got good. So yeah, it's a great anthology, and like I said, I really enjoyed it, and now I'm not so dismissive of anthologies in general out in the world.
Well, good news, I've got 7 more recommendations for you.
I will take them. I think I've read 1 or 2 of those.
A lot of people.
Yeah, but no, like I said, this one was fun. It was, it's got a little bit for everybody, and I think a good chunk of the stories, the connect to other stories or other novels and stuff, or at least some of the ones that are here. And so I'd like to talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa and Jason's are shared to the Bronze Legion. The Eddie Sky Holo story is tied into what was Freelancers of Neptune and is now called Cat Girls from Outer Space, which is fantastic on audio. I'm listening to it right now. Boy Casey's story, Off Duty, is related to the Power Armor series that he's been doing with Bill Fawcett.
Blood and Armor.
And Melissa.
Yeah.
And me.
With Bill Fawcett and Melissa. Yeah.
It's the Blood and Armor series that Bill Fawcett started.
Right.
It was really good.
And then the Buff Orpington story is linked to the forthcoming novels. Buff has only previously been incarnated as a movie series inside the Four Horsemen series, which was completely nonsensical, and And nobody once asked us about any of the other characters, but everybody wanted to know when the Buff books were going to come out. So we're like, well, I guess we better talk to Buff and start writing his memoirs down, huh?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so let's kind of get into the stories, and I'll just go down the list. So you already mentioned Jacob Hollow and Edie Sky, and Blood and Circuit. So let's talk about that story as much as you can remember, and because I know you've slept since you've edited this.
A little bit.
So
the Freelancers of Neptune verse, if we want to call it that, has Nathan Cade as captain of the Neptune Belle. If you imagine the Serenity with fewer crew, that's kind of the size and scope and vibe of the ship. His primary teammate in that is an entirely cybernetic woman who has multiple iterations of the same consciousness running around inside. So she's not an AI, but she belongs to something called the Everlife, in that as long as they keep re-uploading and resyncing their personalities and renewing parts as they break down, then they live forever, is the idea. The Neptune Belle gets hired by one of the solar system's authorities to go into a habitat that isn't supposed to be functional in order to cause some mischief, and they're not supposed to get caught. In this universe, we're not even sure how long it's been since modern day. It could be 10,000 years. It could be 20,000 years. There's a section that I just heard in Catgirls where they don't even, like, Earth is legendary. Nobody knows why it's 24 hours on the clock. Nobody knows why it's 365 days for the year. Nobody knows this stuff because the planet does not exist anymore. The entire Goldilocks zone around the sun has been replaced by habitats, self-contained habitats, and some of them are low-tech in that they don't have air travel. Some of them are mid-tech in that they've figured out planes, and some of them are high-tech in that they've figured out space. And so the three main polities are the Jovians out of Jupiter, the Saturnians, and the Neptunians, and that's where most of the action happens in the story, is ranging between the habitat belt and then everything out past the asteroids. So in our commando goes, and she causes mischief and shenanigans. She meets up with somebody who, is a friend or an ally, makes friends on the fly, and they get the job done. And then, of course, at the end, there's the bit about, you were never there kind of thing when talking to the authorities afterwards. And it really encapsulated that entire idea of authorities, using an asset to accomplish the mission in a way that if they got caught, then they can just, well, that's really unfortunate. And so, they're not professional spies on the Neptune Belle. They're just a scrappy crew who do what needs to get done. But the universe is a hell of a lot of fun, and I will absolutely plug Catgirls from Outer Space to anybody who likes hard sci-fi with some spice, because it did get the Eddie Sky treatment, and there's been a whole bunch of stuff that's been retuned and rekeyed since Freelancers. But it's an awful lot of fun.
That's awesome. So I kind of jumped the gun, but because all these stories are very different, what was the call out whenever you said, "Hey, I'm doing an anthology"? What did you tell people that you wanted for this anthology?
Oh boy, where's my pitch? Here it is. And you know what I forgot to mention, Kacey? We were talking earlier and talking about templates and stuff, and it was your Noir Fatale template that I used as my template for putting together the Plausibly Deniable pitch. So that's an awful lot of fun.
You're muted.
Proposal that I sent to Tony, opened with this quote from Charles Babbage in 1864. And the quote goes, Occasionally, a few simply honest men are found upon committees. These are useful as adjuncts to give a kind of high moral character to the cause, but the rest of the committee generally think them bores. When any particularly delicate question arises, it is sometimes important to eliminate one or more of them temporarily from the real committee of management, and also of enabling him at any future time to declare truly, if necessary, that he was never present at any meeting at which even a questionable course had been proposed. So they borrow some guys who are morally upright and upstanding, and then they like quietly shut them out whenever they get down to what really needs to get done. And that's the essence of this kind of thing, right? Is we have a thing that needs to get done, but we can't get caught doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So the pitch, with that in mind, boiled down to, hey, I want something science fiction. I want clear and present danger with laser guns. I was early teens maybe when Clear and Present Danger came out, and that scene where John Ryan has to go to South America in order to basically go rogue and rescue Ding Chavez and the rest of the commando team that were there hunting drug lords, and then the satellites get switched off and their comms go dark and they're on the run, and a bunch of them get killed and some of them get captured, and then Willem Dafoe is John Clark, and he has to go in and rescue the team with Jack Ryan and all this. When that was a badass action movie, and that was my introduction to Tom Clancy for techno thrillers. And so that was kind of my base template was, I want something that is going to be clear and present danger with laser guns. And so I ended up with a whole collection of stories that are anywhere from like 20 minutes into the future, like Kacey and Nick's, to 20,000 years into the future, like the Neptune Bell, and everything in between. And so we got a fantastic mix of very, very different stories that kept the theme together really well without being repetitive. And that's a really important consideration for anthologies where it needs to vibe, but you don't want to read 10 times 10,000 words of the same story over and over. And we did not get that. It was tremendous.
No, it was great. You did you got a good collection of stories because you definitely felt the theme throughout the anthology, but they were very different, and because of that, it was very entertaining. At least it was for me. So were there any so how long did it take you from once you announced the anthology and started getting interest and everything until you finished, and were there any fun stories along the way?
I want to say it was 6 months from initially recruiting the gang to my official turn-in date. And then I had 2 months built in for post-production. I ended up needing all of it because a couple of my tentpole authors were delayed, and one of them had real life happen and had to bounce at the very last minute. And so then Jason works for Bain, and Jason knows everybody. And I got a hold of Jason and I said, look, dude, I'm spinning. This is who I just lost. Who can you suggest that might be a replacement as a tentpole author that I could just like cold pitch and be like, and by the way, I need it next week. And so Jason was like, you need to talk to Jody. And I have been in the same room as Jody Lynn and I several times. I don't know that we've ever actually like spoken in person. She's amazing. But I wrote to her, and she was spectacularly understanding. And so I sent her the pitch. I told her what kind of stuff we had going on already, and she said, all right, cool, I'll get you something real fast. It was real fast. I think it was less than a week from my hat in hand begging for help to me getting a story in that needed like 2 commas fixed, and it was a joy. So Jody came through in a big way, and I was really, really pleased in that sense. So that was my mega glitch for this anthology. But we had another fairly substantial glitch as well, which Melissa's going to talk about. Do you want to take over here, Melissa, or shall we?
Wow, way to throw me under the bus. I'm here for this. Okay.
Yeah. So tell the story. I'll only color commentate a little.
So there I was. I was not supposed to be involved in this anthology at all because Jamie apparently doesn't like me anymore. It's fine. I'm not holding a grudge. But Jason Cordova does like me. And he was like, hey, bestie, person I love so much, co-author of Amazingness, would you write a short story with me? And I'm like, twist my arm. Okay. So we write this awesome short story that is currently available on Baen.com. It's called To Catch a Crow. Please note that it is available on Baen.com for free and not in this beautiful, awesome antho. Why? Because even at our wonderful level at Baen, which is just still the coolest thing ever, you can still get rejected. And we did. So
here's the issue is I wanted cleared and present danger with laser guns, and what I got was Space Marines on shore leave.
It was Space Marines on shore leave versus Space Marines on shore leave. I'm just saying, regardless, I never heard the clear and present danger pitch because I was brought in by Jason. So and to be clear, you guys, Jamie was not mean about it. He was a freaking professional. He's like, hey guys, I love this story. It was great. You had me laughing out loud several times, which winning. But it doesn't really fit the theme of what I'm looking for. And we're like, okay, all right. And this is where we had to clarify that when we said that we wrote a new short story for Jamie in 2 days, that it did not mean that we were angry or upset. It was more like, all right, fine. We're going to get you something even better. So what we came up with, and I am 100% going to take credit for this one because I had an idea. And I had the idea for the end of the story with what exactly a backup plan could be. Mm-hmm. And I found a way to tie it into some of the deeper background lore of the Bronze Legion universe. And I pitched it to Jason. I'm like, dude, okay, what if we take this twist here and we build the story out from that? And he's like, oh, yes. So
I laughed out loud, LOL, quite a bit when I was reading the Shore Leave story. I got to the twist and I went, oh, holy shit. So,
I was real proud of that one, y'all.
Chills. I got chills. It was rad. It was absolutely awesome.
Thank you. So we came up with, and it was really a very good thing that he rejected our first story because it gave us the opportunity to really flesh out some of the background world building for Bronze Legion. And we've reached the point where that's exactly what we want to do with our short stories is we want to build off our own IPs. And, it's an opportunity to get into side characters or background organizations that we can't do in the main storylines. So it worked out really well. We actually had 2 different spies. So we literally had spy versus spy reluctantly working together, but still.
So I was just looking the other day because I thought I remembered something, right? One of my original ideas for the cover was to have, our femme fatale up front and then like the black silhouette of one spy on one side and the white silhouette of another spy on the other side and really lean into the Mad Magazine vibe. That was one of my ideas. But there's a third spy in Spy versus Spy, and she's the lady in gray. She's the femme fatale. And I went, this is exactly what we've got in this story, is spy versus spy versus spy, and then 2 of them ganging up in order to take out number 3. And yeah, it was more twists than a pretzel factory. It was terrific.
Thank you.
So the only thing that pisses me off is that you ended up putting the Shore Leave story onto Baen's website because I wanted to do a Shore Leave anthology with that as my lead, and now I can't.
So here's the thing, y'all. We have been so busy, which is an amazing problem to have. That when they were like, yeah, we need that website short story for Bronze Legion, we're like, I have no time to write something else. Here you go. But we did promise Jamie that if he gets to do that antho, which heck yes, that would be amazing, that we will write him a brand new, even funnier shore leave shenanigan story, because this time we wouldn't be doing it based off of what we thought he wanted. This time we can go full shenanigan.
Fabulous.
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story. One time, this is way back, Marisa wrote a short story for Jamie, but it had nothing to do with the anthology.
Yeah, I had specifically said in the instructions that it needs to be science fiction, and she turned in a kick-ass fantasy story, and I'm like, Marisa, I am really sorry. I got yelled at in the last anthology for mixing genres like that, and I was really specific this time, and she's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then she cranked out a kick-ass story in, again, a week. There's something about like, oh, I'll do better this time, that seems to really turn into tremendous stories in that sense.
Not that we're asking people to reject us.
No.
Yeah.
Because it does stress us. But
the unfortunate event that we hit a speed bump and go off into left field. The follow-up has been excellent.
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Melissa.
So you said that you welcome tangents, so I have a tangent. So there I was, as all good stories start, a baby author. Like, no novels out yet. I think I had maybe 3 short stories under my belt with Chris Kennedy Publishing. And I have barely met most of these yahoos. And then I get a message from Jamie Ibson. And I'm like, oh, cool, Jamie. I know him from all this stuff. He's like, hey, so I have an opening in We Dare 3. And I need a short story. And can you get it to me in a week? And I'm like, baby author, it took me like 3 months to write my first short story. I'm like, yeah, I could do this. I had Under Pressure, that song by David Bowie and Queen, in my head all week. So I'm like, I am not going to let this man down. I am going to do the thing. And I did. But it seems like, Jamie, you have a great habit of being like, hey, I need a short story in a week. Can you do it? And people just love being in your anthos so much. We're like,
perform for you. Yeah.
If I could pull it off like that, I could put it in an anthology a month. But that's not actually how it works in real life.
Yeah, not terribly feasible. Yeah.
So with the Jamie talking about mistakes on the anthology and people, so he doesn't even know it, but Kacey and I screwed up writing the story for this anthology, but we never told him. Because I'm scrolling on Facebook or something, or somebody messaged me, and I'm like, oh crap. So I messaged Kacey and I said, hey, was our story supposed to be futuristic science fiction-y kind of? Because we didn't write that at all. It was all modern day. There was nothing techie about it. It was straight up, spy versus spy stuff, like modern day. And we're like, oh crap. So
no problem.
We actually fixed our story without you ever even finding out, big guy.
I mean, it was still like, it was a hack job for one thing, right? Like we got into the science of like infiltrating the facility and getting access to the mainframe and hacker nonsense and EMPs and other kinds of stuff like that. So when I say 20 minutes into the future, that's all it takes.
Yeah, and Kacey's the one that actually fixed. She goes, "Oh crap, I got it. I'll fix it." And she went back in there and made it more sciencey and futuristic. So it turned out really well the way it did.
I just replaced cell phones with a direct neural link and called it good.
There we go. Wearable thing.
I saw no issues with it.
Yeah.
And it created a really cool scene for like a compromise situation. Yeah. So that was really good.
That was fun to write, There's a scene in which one of the main characters of our story, her name is Olivia, but for the rest of eternity in my head, she exists as Fed Girl, thanks to Nick, where Fed Girl, she's compromised, like her team is compromised, right? And so she's on this direct neural link with her controller, the guy in the chair, and she's reporting this, and she's, she tells him to go ahead and initiate compromise protocols that like actually burn out that neural link. So that neural link exists, you know, I mean, it was our fix, but it exists in the story for like all of 20 minutes. and then she burns it out. But knowing that the physiological effects of having a part of, you know, a cybernetic implant in your brain being burnt out, which as you can imagine would be relatively unpleasant, probably. Not only is she experiencing it, but also the jerks who just betrayed her are also experiencing it. That was a lot of fun to play with the emotions of that scene too. So
she's like, hope you guys enjoyed that.
Hope you enjoyed this.
And I think I give y'all, if I'm not wrong, I give y'all the trophy for the cursiest story.
Which surprises zero people.
No, is you guys writing? No, it does not. But you know what?
We don't do PG-13 here.
Yeah, but there's so many. I wish there were more stories that that talk like real people, or at least the real people I know. You know, that curse a lot. You know, they curse a lot and they say weird stuff and all that. And I think y'all captured that pretty well.
Well, thank you, because we dialed it back.
Yeah,
we did dial it back. Yes. Yeah. Because one of the things that you learn once you get into writing is that, we talk a certain way, but if you try to directly translate that to the written page, it doesn't come off correctly. It feels overdone and stilted. And I actually learned that on a project that Jamie was also involved in early on, the Freehold Resistance project. My story for that, Michael Z. Williamson was the editor. Jamie was like the continuity master for the project, but it's Mike's universe. So Mad Mike, he was the editor, and he wrote back. He was like, "Hey, this story's good, except you curse way too much, girl." And I'm like, "Well, but that's how we talk." He's like, "Yes, but it reads wrong to the reader. Like it becomes too repetitive." So it's another instance of where, if you told the story as it really was, nobody would freaking believe you. Yeah.
No, I had a buddy in high school, and he swore like that was his or that was like his comma, and this effing this effing, and your brain can just filter that out when you're listening.
Yep.
Your brain cannot filter it out when it's right there on the page, and it's over and over and over and over.
That's a good point.
Yeah, they absolutely cuss like people who have just betrayed their country and been betrayed by their team, and it was
and grew up in the mob.
And then there's like the mum at the end with the accent, which was right there on the page, and I'm like, I can hear her. I know that accent.
That was all Nick. That was all Nick. It was brilliant. I loved it. He sent me that scene, and I was just like, "Oh shit, this is an amazing ending." Amazing.
I actually have an audio recording of it, Jamie, where I played it out for Kacey. Like, hey, what if we do this? And it was a voice message. If you want to hear it, I'll send it to you. It's hilarious.
It's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
I do the accent and everything.
Thank you.
One of the
funny
things
things without context.
You're like,
what is happening? This is hilarious. What is this?
That's good stuff.
One of the things swearing wise, just as a complete tangent, that I thought was really, really funny was I don't know if you guys have ever read Brent Weeks' Night Angel series. It's really good. It's some of my favorite. I don't even know what genre you would call it, but it's like dark fantasy, crime, drama, epic fantasy. It's weird. But the main character is basically like being trained to be an assassin, a magically enhanced assassin from childhood, being trained by the most dangerous man to have ever lived. And Durzo is the assassin. And at one point, he's like spying on the king, and everybody always watches their language around the king, right? He's never heard anybody drop an F-bomb before. And so when he gets really, really upset, he's like, what the shitting shit kind of thing, right? And then 2 books later, Durzo is again, in the presence of the king, and the king drops an F-bomb, and Durzo's like, somebody learned a new word. It was this moment where it's like, All right, this is how bad things have gotten in this kingdom, is that people are dropping F-bombs around the king, and the king is now swearing. That's how awful things have gotten. It was a really funny little bit of character development for a character who's otherwise a scumbag.
Yeah.
I agree. That was a very good series. His Black Prism series is awesome too. The magic system in that is very unique.
Books, those are cool.
Yeah.
I haven't finished the series, but they're taking up a lot of shelf space because they're big, thick door stoppers.
Yeah.
Light colors of light as magic.
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point he starts playing like fantasy magic cards with cards that lean into ultraviolet and infrared as well. It's you fantasy fans. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very unique magic system, and it's awesome. All right, so Nick and Kacey, since you already kind of started talking about your story, if you would just kind of do your elevator pitch on what the story is about.
So Olivia is a CIA agent undercover working to extract, to recover some information from a cartel in Venezuela, which is actually kind of funny, all things considered. And she
was that before or after stuff went down?
It was before.
We called it.
This is the only story where real life has chased after the fiction that I got for this.
Yeah.
But she gets betrayed by her team, and she's on her own, out of options. But she's not giving up. The only thing she wants is to finish her mission because it's fucking important, right? So she gets in touch with her guy in the chair, her operator, and is like, "Give me something. There's got to be something." And the operator tells her, "These actions are not. You will be disavowed. These actions will be disavowed." She's like, "I don't care. Give me something." And he's like, "All right. Well, there's a guy. There's a guy. We know his location. He's a fugitive from justice. With ties to the mob. Maybe he can help you." And then goodbye. And so she basically shows up at the gangster's door, kind of covered in blood, all beat up. And he's like, "The fuck do you want?" And she's like, "Hi, can you help me?" And he's like, "And why would I do that?" And it just kind of goes from there. So,
yep.
Yeah, it was kind of fun how it came about because I had zero ideas, to be clear. When Jamie invited me to do this, I was like, "Yeah, man, that sounds really fun." But I was in the middle of I think 3 other projects at the time. And so I was like, I got nothing. I have no idea. My head is filled with fantasy relationships and card-based monsters and all this other stuff. And so I was like, let me bring in a co-author. And I knew Nick and Jamie had worked together before. I knew Jamie knew Nick and liked Nick's writing. And I have been wanting to work with Nick for a while. So I reached out and I was like, "Hey, man, do you want to work together on this?" And he was like, "Yes. And I have this great idea. Here it is." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome." And the next thing I know, there's 3,000 words in my inbox. And I was like, "Oh, shit. Okay, we're doing this right now." Okay. And it worked out great. It was a lot of fun. So that's my perspective. I don't know. Nick may tell you a totally different story.
She told me what it was, and I immediately said, "I get to write a mob boss."
Uh-huh.
I like writing with bad guys for some reason. Like the villain, I love the villain's point of view. The protagonist, I like redemption. I like taking a guy who is on the other side of the law, but may not be so bad, or he may be, But for me, that kind of writing always comes pretty easy, and I find it fun. And writing Maddie was a lot of fun,
Yeah.
I really like the part where he got his back up about "Hey, look, that was all alleged."
Allegedly.
Never convicted. Yeah.
And then when they first meet, I did the quintessential, you see it in all the mob movies. They open the door crack and there's a 357 snub nose at their waist, and you don't see it till it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just fun for me. And then doing the whole Italian thing with him, "Hey, are you hungry? You look hungry, here's some food,
Yeah.
My grandma
was very hospitable.
Yeah. And but that's the thing. Criminals like that, organized crime, they're hospitable, they're polite, it's all business. A lot of it, a lot of what they do is business. It's I'm putting a gun to your head and making you do this, which there is that, but it's a lot of polite, business, respectful type things, and it just has to be reciprocated or it goes to the other shit.
Yeah. It was also fun. Another aspect of the story that was really fun for me, and I feel like I kind of like got to tease Nick the entire time we were doing this, but we have, this character of this handsome older gentleman who's like rugged and he's got that like bad boy aura, and then we have this not really damsel in distress because she's a badass operative in her own right, but she's like her back's against the wall. And it was so much fun to write like the like not quite flirtation between them, because I've been writing a fantasy series with a strong romance plotline, and I read a lot of romance, so I'm kind of immersed in that. And it was really fun for me to throw in things like, God damn it, why did he have to be a silver fox, right? Like because that's the kind of shit I read, and so Nick was very, very gracious with allowing me to include that element.
Yes, the lady in the corner.
Hi. So, as always, I am a smug first reader for these awesome folks. And I remember that we were at BosCon convention in Boston last February. And me, Kacey, and Marisa are just hanging out in the hotel room in between all the shenanigans. And Kacey's on her laptop, and all of a sudden she's like mid-conversation, she's like, you guys, I need you to listen to this. Like, I gotta read something for you. And then she reads this awesome scene that's towards the end of the story. And y'all, if you think that Nick frickin' Steverson only writes like grimdark jerks, bad guys, just really, dude, I was sitting there like nearly like crying, like, you jerk, this is so good. And it was like a comfort kind of scene where like, and it was so well done. And I was just sitting there, and I immediately picked up my phone. I'm like, you mother chucker.
Yeah. It was, on the surface, our story it's a hacker heist story. It's fun. There's a lot of action. There's, a little bit of flirtation, but there's also like some deeper emotional themes going on there, right? Here's a woman who's had her team betray her. She's lost friends, and then she has to do actions that result in her coming face to face with the people that have betrayed her. And spoiler alert, sometimes they don't make it, right? But she's got to deal with that, right? And here's a guy who, he's a bad guy, but that doesn't mean he's a bad guy. You know what I mean? Here's a dude who's done bad things and seen bad things, and he's found himself, in the position where he's got to protect this young woman and kind of help her get through it. And he just, the only thing he can tell her is like, look, like, this sucks. This really sucks, but you will make it through this. It was him or you, and you made the right choice. You gotta, and just, man, you're right. That scene was, it took my breath away. So I was like, yes, I've chosen wisely.
Thank you. Yeah, that was honestly a lot of fun because that scene ties back to his own past. Like, what I mean? And while Olivia's there because she's been abandoned by her own, Maddie's there because he's not really. We have a backstory for Maddie. We didn't talk about it in the story, but he's not abandoned, but he's certainly not there by choice, right? So this is his opportunity to get back, but he's also relating to her. And through the story, you can see where his rugged exterior slowly breaks down with her. So like their relationship develops and evolves, you know what I mean? And I think in that moment, that was the pivotal moment where you see where those two are now, like where they've gotten to in this shorter period of time.
Yeah.
And
we should do more with them, Nick. We should do more with them.
Yeah, there's a ton we could do with those two.
Yeah.
Melissa and Kacey and Nick, y'all have all co-written books with other people and everything. And I get co-writing a book because it's you're sharing the load. It's a full book and all that. Is it more or less challenging to co-write a short story versus a full novel?
Yes.
Because of the shortness of it.
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah, I say this all the time when people ask me about co-writing. Each individual project is unique, even if you're writing with the same partner, right? Like your wife Marisa and I have written 5 books together, and every single one was different. The process was different. The way we approached it was different. In the case of like this particular story, Nick and I employed a technique that I've used many times, and I know Nick and Melissa have used, where like he kind of wrote Maddie's point of view, I kind of wrote Olivia's point of view, and then once we put them all together, there's a little bit of crossover and and some editing and stuff, but for the most part, that works really well when you have 2 or more distinct characters with very distinct voices and points of view on whatever the events of the story are. So that I think that works just as well in a shorter fiction format as it does in a long form novel or novella or whatever. I would almost say it's more about the dynamic between you and your co-author than it is about the format of the story. Is going to determine whether it's more or less difficult.
Yeah, you got to be on the same page, and you have to get along. You know what I mean? Like, you can't write with somebody who is combative the whole time. It's just not going to work.
No.
Well,
that reminds me of stories that Marisa would tell me when you, Kacey, you and Marisa started.
Because she and I got combative.
No, just writing together. Where this is a callback to the last minuteness of writing stories. Because she would tell me stories. It was early on where you wrote a bunch. She's like, yeah, I see that, and you wrote a bunch more. So I see that too, and then all of a sudden, and this is definitely Marisa's brain. I just wonder if this is other people's brain. Is she thrives on that imminent doom deadline, where it's like, oh, I haven't worked on this in a couple weeks, but I'm gonna write 80,000 words in a weekend, and boom, here you go, and it's great. You're welcome. And I keep on telling, so that's not the best way to go for your long-term mental health and stability. But she thrives on that stuff, and I wonder if anybody else kind of, since you'll have so many stories of, hey, give me this in a week.
That is not my jam. I can do a short story in a week, sure. 10,000 words in a week, sure. But no, I cannot write Marisa style where it's like, okay, 5 weeks, 130,000 words, here you go. I do not thrive under that pressure. No,
it's her thing. I don't know if it's ADHD or what, but it's her thing.
I think it comes down to, like, we talk about pantsers and plotters, right?
Yeah.
If you can be a pantser and you can write clean just by throwing down a story and then what happens next and blast through it. The theory behind pantsing is that your first draft basically forms the outline for your actual draft. And if you're a plotter, that's not going to work for you. And you're not going to be able to sit down and hammer it all out without putting in a bunch of work to figure out where things are going to go. And what I'm really interested from the pantsing versus plotting perspective is how well pantsers manage multi-point of view stories where you've got so many characters going in so many directions at once, right? We talked a little bit about Brent Weeks and Night Angel. I cannot imagine that Brent Weeks is a pantser with his 11 different point of view characters over the course of that series, because he's got so many pieces moving in so many directions. How can you possibly hold all that in your brain? Maybe he's brilliant and he can just do that. I don't know. But I really think that pantsing loans itself very, very well to a tight, this is my main character, this is the story, and this is what they do next. And blasting through in that sense. I would struggle to imagine somebody throwing down 130,000 words with 7 points of view without any kind of a plan whatsoever. That's just
lady with the dark hair.
Yes. So for the most part, I agree with you, Jamie. And that's part of the reason why I am as much of an outliner and plotter as I am. However, I will say there are definitely notable exceptions. There's a woman she's since passed, but she's by the name of Ellen Raskin. She wrote YA fiction, and her book, The Westing Game, was like this huge like medal winner for years. And to this day, it is a YA book, but to this day, it is, in my opinion, the perfect example of a book that just keeps you guessing until the very end. And you're like, and then when you see when the end happens, you're like, well, of course it was this the whole time, but you never get it. You never guess it along the way. And it's written for teenagers, right? Amazing book. And she had said in multiple interviews that she was like, no, I just wrote the story. I didn't plot it or outline it, and it's one of those that has like so many threads that like, come back down. I mean, like I read it again to this day, I read it and I'm in awe. Like I wish I could create something like that, even with all my plotting and all my outlining. And this woman just put it out.
What's
there,
the name of that again?
The Westing Game.
The Westing Game.
Yeah.
Right.
Westing, like Westinghouse, not Weston, like the hotel.
Westing Game.
Ellen Raskin.
I remember.
It's pretty famous.
But there's a crime author that Maya would talk about a lot, and he would just like throw random tidbits and stuff into like the first 2/3 of the book.
Yep.
And then you'd go back through and figure out, yeah, okay, like if I use this tidbit and that tidbit and this tidbit and that tidbit, then that can lead to my conclusion, and the rest of it's red herrings, and I'm just not going to care, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that would be so stress-inducing for me. I couldn't do that. That would be no, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I think I'm a pantser because I'm lazy. I don't want to do all that plotting work just to go back and write the story. It's like, man, I could have written this in the time I did that whole draft. What are you talking about? I'm writing with Kevin Eikenberry right now, and he is, as you all know, a plotter.
He's a plotter.
So my pants and ass. We did it a little different. So we have sections in the side column, right, and a paragraph in each one of what we're going to have happen through that book. But I pants every freaking section that I'm doing, like, and then it just goes on down the story. And this section might change the what we originally had it because it doesn't work anymore, but that's okay. Ike's malleable. It's been a lot of fun working with Ike, actually, and I'm learning a lot. I remember the day we plotted this book. I felt so dirty.
Poor baby.
It's like, is this the right way? I don't like it.
I don't like it. No.
There is no right way, please.
I just wrote 30,000 words. That could have been the first half of my book.
Yeah.
Melissa, you have something.
Yeah, Melissa.
So to bring it back to Jeremy's original thing with like how does like Marisa with her like last second plotting and writing and just here's a book compare. So
amazing.
One, hell yes, I am in awe of what Marisa can do. It is freaking amazing. And Nick and I have talked about this over the years. And because I am a horse girl, I always bring it back to horse terms. I am not a sprinter. I am a freaking workhorse. And I will put down however many words I have decided my daily word count is going to be. And I will just steadily make progress every day that my life allows for, right? But my brain is also incredibly weird. I am not a plotter. I'm not a pantser. I am in between the two. So I will take, if I'm working on something else, I will take the time like I'm doing right now. And I am casually plotting out the third book in my Griffin Core series, right? Like just adding chaos notes. And that will eventually be a outline. And then I will sit down and I will write the book as a pantser by hitting those big points, right? So I'm very much in between, like Daughter of Shippo, the last book in my Salvage Bunny series. I was insane with Marisa, and we both wrote 150,000 word novels in 5 weeks. And it's just, it all depends on what works for your brain, though. Like I need both. I need to plot. I need to give my subconscious time to work things out. But when I'm ready to write, I just sit down and I write.
Yeah.
How many keyboards, Jamel?
Well, it's like the series that Marisa's about to start writing.
She is.
But she's been working on the outline for like 2 years. With other people, and
as one does with an honor-verse novel.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and call that one out.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of history there.
Girl.
And then, but I find she finds it hard to get, and I get this because I'm kind of like this with my like regular job. It's hard for her to get started with that without that sword of Damocles hanging over her head to actually get down. And it's like, oh, I've got time, until you don't, and it's like, all right, time to work, and let's go.
But then that wonderful bit will rip out
really
something.
Good at building up like a gestalt, kind of she can hold the story in her head, right? Like, and I plot because I can't. I'm like, all right, what the hell was I going to do next again? Oh yeah, right. And it will have made sense at the time, and it's all subject to characters taking over the story and being like, no, I want all the attention, and that kind of nonsense that happens. But yeah, like, when you can just like ideate and kind of come up with the whole thing until you can see it in your head and you can hear the characters and you can imagine an argument between these two characters and you can hear their voices and stuff, that's like the good stuff when it comes to being able to pants and just go.
Yeah, that's kind of what she did with her story in this one.
Can we?
Because I know I've been excited too. So she's got this world called Cascada, and she's written 4 or 5 short stories now set on this world. The first one that was published was in my third noir anthology with the theme of the city. And it worked really well because, it was an urban setting on Cascada. But her story in this one is so freaking good. It is the story of a spy going after another sort of shadowy figure, and things don't really go the way that, anybody thinks they're going to. And it's the kind of thing where you're reading it and you're just like, I think I know. Nope. Well, okay, but I think nope. Oh, it's like every time you think the story's going to turn left, it turns right. And it just, it's so good. I want to tell you more, but I don't want to spoil it.
One of the things that I really liked about it is how she was able to create multiple distinct personas for the character depending on what role she was in.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like, there's the actual her, and then there's like the student her, and then there's this, the face that she presents to the other spook her, and then there's the twist, and it's like, oh heck, wow, that escalated quickly, and it's good. And I didn't know that this is part of an existing universe. I would have mentioned that when I did the book, but I'm looking at what she sent me right now, and it's just like, When It Counts by Marissa Wolf. It was it's only treason if you lose, and that's literally how it.
It's a great starting line.
First line, and she is so freaking good at first lines. It's
she really is.
It's like, oh, that was amazing.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
Yeah, I think she clutched that one from some historical references.
Yeah.
Melissa, you were going to say something in regards to the story.
They already got it, which was that first line, that killer first line, right?
Oh,
but
okay.
So it's sci-fi, it's noir, it's visceral, because this is one of those worlds that I don't particularly want to live in it, but I could see how you would.
I watch the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to spend time in this universe, and I know she has plans to turn it into a series, and I am so here for it. She did another short story with a different POV character, but also set on Cascada for the CKP anthem that just came out in December, Running with Objects. And it's just as good as this one. And I'm like, I think I ended my comments on that story with all caps. How dare you end this story right here? Where are the rest of my words? I need more. You guys, what this means is that y'all need to get every anthology Marissa Wolf is in, just so you can follow this series of short stories.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a minute before she writes it because she's got some bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Never a shortage of work.
But it's
Totally.
like Jamie says,
Totally
she has it in her head. This
Mhm.
sort of like Gestalt mix of, okay, this is the world. These are the kind of people who live in this world. These are the, the basic conflicts that are living in this world, which interestingly enough, as I'm saying this, I realize that's how Nick is with our character Maddie from our Plausibly Deniable story, No Extradition, is like, you knew Maddie immediately. Like you knew exactly who he was. You knew exactly what his background was and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe that's the mark of genius, is just being able to have these fully fleshed
Voices in our heads.
voices and settings, and not necessarily plot lines, but conflicts that will then result in plot lines and choices. And
Like, so
Yeah.
I find that I know my characters better than I know my universe. And because of Melissa, now it makes sense, because she told me on a story I was struggling with a while back. I wrote it 3 times.
Mhm.
And she's like, write it in first person.
Mhm.
And it's the first thing I ever wrote in first person, and it flew.
Mhm.
And it's because I was so into the character's head that I was okay with him, but I couldn't focus on what was going on around him and write it properly. And it just wasn't coming out right. So I needed to narrow the tunnel,
Mhm.
put it in first person point of view. And then it rocked, and now she won't leave me alone about that story.
It's
And I'm
fascinating
still
what
so
different
mad. I am so mad, you guys, because he just rips out this freaking amazing sci-fi, like mercenary type short story, and he has yet to write me the freaking novel that I need, because I am a selfish person and I want to read it, and he hasn't written it yet. So please, I need y'all to like socially pressure Nick to write his Troy story. Just
Okay.
Troy,
Get on that.
not toy.
That's a different
Don't
story.
make
That's
it
a
weird.
whole different genre.
We don't need Disney coming or Pixar coming after us.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So
yeah,
dude,
I think first person for Pantsers is gonna end up being easier. That's just kind of what I
Makes
assume.
sense.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends. Sometimes it's easier to think behind the character's eyes, but sometimes it's easier to think, to draw the camera back a little bit and look at the wider picture. I think it just depends.
It is funny what a difference the point of view can make.
Mhm.
And I know some people who just they do not like first person point of view, for example, and stuff like that. One of the most memorable stories that I've read in the Galactic Outlaws Galaxy's Edge universe from Nick Cole and Jason Hasbach has whole sections of it that is actually in second person.
Mm.
And it's weird, right? Like first person is I did this, and third person is Dave did that, and second person is you did this.
Mhm.
And the reason it works is because it's not actually what's happening, right? The frame narrative for these sequences is it's the spy master justifying to the spy why he did what he did. And he's going, no, like you're not you, you're this guy.
Mhm.
And the reason that you survived is you did this and you do this and then you do that. And why do you do that? Because you're not you, you're this guy.
Mhm.
And holy crap, does it change the everything about how the story was. It's the only time I've ever read second person. And I was like, wow, this is so different. It's memorable as hell. And for, it was the perfect place and time to deploy that bizarre writing technique. But that kind of spy shenanigan nonsense is exactly the kind of thing that I was looking for in this, right? Is where you got to get inside these people's heads and what do we know? What do we think we know? What do we know we don't know? And what don't we know that we don't know?
I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 lately.
Very good.
One of my all-time favorite video games and one of my all-time favorite forms of like creative rest for my brain. And so that's probably why I'm making this connection right now. But I think if like it occurred to me the other day when I was playing that playing that kind of game is also a form of second person storytelling, right? Like, because you're inhabiting the character of V or whoever it is in, whatever game. You're inhabiting that character, but the story is also being told to you. It's like a mix of first and second person storytelling, right? Because the story is being told to you. You're being told what you're doing, through cutscenes, and then but then you're also making choices, and that's exactly right. And to that end, if that's the kind of storytelling you enjoy, not necessarily second person POV, but that like fast paced, technologically informed, just kind of really gritty and dirty, but also like flashy and colorful and beautiful, and if that's your jam, you're gonna love this book. I feel like Jamie wrote this to be a love letter, or edited this to be a love letter to cyberpunk fans.
Yeah, really. Okay, so yes, you're absolutely right. I do enjoy the cyberpunk genre. I do like the high-tech, low-life stuff. The novel that is sitting on my hard drive that was published as Myrmidons Incorporated was meant to be a hybridization of cyberpunk and space opera. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that the way that it was written doesn't really work for either audience, which is really friggin' unfortunate. The cyberpunk guys, they are like, look, if it's got spaceships and aliens, it's not cyberpunk. I don't care what else you do to that story. And I was like, oh, okay. But at the same time, there's an awful lot of themes that can be cyberpunk-esque, but plugged into other genres, right? And that's where I get into my whole discussion of like, is sci-fi and fantasy even a genre, or is it like a setting that we plug genres into? Take romantasy. Is it fantasy story? It's romance with magic. It's a romance genre.
We have opinions. Capital O on romance.
I'm sure you do. Right? But my point is that when we talk about these things from sci-fi and fantasy, the genres of science fiction and fantasy are so broad and mean so many different things. They've more or less lost their meaning as genres, right? Like if we talk about noir, we know what we're in for. If we talk about romance, we know what we're in for. If we talk about cyberpunk, it's narrow enough that you pretty much know what you're in for. But if you just say fantasy or you just say science fiction, you can mean everything from cyberpunk 2044 to Warhammer 40K to, well, is Star Wars fantasy or is it sci-fi? We've got like Jedis running around using magic and swinging laser swords at people, but we've also got TIE fighters, and so these days, when I'm talking about genre, I want to talk about the actual tropes and the structure of the story that's going on inside the pages, instead of just, well, do we have lasers or do we have magic?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's really the only distinction that makes a difference between sci-fi and fantasy these days. It's more about the story itself that's being told with those plugins, as it were.
So here's my answer to you, Jamie, and it is that it is a layer cake, right? The umbrella terms are science fiction or fantasy, and there is crossover, right? There definitely is. There's science fantasy and space opera that have elements of both, but they are umbrella terms, right? But when you're talking about genre in terms of like, okay, this is a list of specific tropes that I have to hit, otherwise I'm going to piss off the people that I'm trying to sell the book to, that becomes much more niche, like what you're talking about. And I think a lot of that honestly has to do with Amazon and the way that we buy books online now, right? Because when I was a kid, we would go to the bookstore and I would like get lost in the stacks, and there was like, two stacks over my head that was science fiction / fantasy, and anything and everything was in there, right? And I would just look on the book and read the back cover copy to decide, and look at the cover art to decide if this was something that I wanted to beg my mom to buy for me or not, right? Now, though, a lot of our shopping for reading material is done online, and we go category by category by category. So these things do naturally niche down, like exactly what you're talking about. So yeah, I mean, is science fiction still a genre? Yes, but it's a super genre, right?
Mhm.
And it's a collection of other genres that have kind of developed out of this change in the way that we purchase our fiction. That's my theory, anyway.
Yeah, there's
Sure.
there's subgenres.
Absolutely. But my take on it basically is just calling something science fiction or just calling it fantasy is so vague at this point as to become more or less irrelevant or meaningless, right?
Well,
Like,
if you're
there's
defining
an enormous difference between somebody who wants to read a Tom Clancy-esque techno thriller set, 10 years from now versus the 40K nerds who read about like 40,000 years from now with space cathedrals going through fighting against bioweapons, right? Like it's just calling something sci-fi or fantasy is irrelevant when we're actually describing stories. We can be more specific.
And now, as promised, one jump ahead. John Moore is a nanotech-enhanced soldier of fortune. Lobo is an AI, a living weapons and intelligence platform of enormous destructive potential. Two very dangerous wolves in a galaxy of deadly corporate and paramilitary predators. But Moore has grown weary of the killing, and just once he'd like to finish a job without leaving a trail of blood behind him. Not going to happen. Not on a pristine planet called Macon, where two gigantic corporations vie for control of the local jump gate and access to the riches of an undeveloped world. Dealing with a kidnapping and extortion scheme is only the beginning for Moore and Lobo as they work to stay one jump ahead.
No recording, she said, the push of her cuff button so slight I almost missed it. I want to hire you. That's it? You could have saved us both a lot of trouble by saying so in your message. We have a rate card for our services and... I cut her off. No, I said. I don't want to hire your company. I want to hire you. She shook her head slowly and exhaled loudly. No, she said. That's not what we do. We provide security and combat services. You choose the service, and I choose the appropriate staff. She studied my face for a moment. I am curious, though. As I said earlier, we were never closer than any two other humps who served together, and as I recall, the last mission we were on didn't end to your liking. So, why me? I understand your company doesn't do this, but I don't want your company. I want you. The reason why is simple. I need one person, someone I know, to help me solve a problem. I can't afford the time to try out someone new. Your problem is not my problem, she said. Why should I even consider this? 3 reasons, I said, ticking them slowly off on the fingers of my right hand in the same manner she had earlier. First, money. Either I can pay you or you can gamble. Take nothing up front and get half of a much larger amount if this works out the way I think it will. Second, the potential win for your company. If this goes well, the Frontier Coalition will emerge with more power than it has now, and helping it get that power should prove useful for you. I paused, leaned forward, and watched her closely. Third, the action. Unless you've changed more than your body, part of you still craves it, and running prison security can't satisfy that craving. I slowly waved my arm to take in the men in the rafters. This drill wasn't only for your company. It was also for you. Prison security is serious work, she said, with the potential to run hot at any time. I'm not denying that, I said. But has it gone hot since you've been on the job? When did you last get a chance to use your fighting skills? I work out and shoot every day, she said, sounding defensive. I never doubted you'd stay in shape, I said, easing up my tone, leaning back. If I did, I wouldn't have approached you. All I'm suggesting is that a little real action might interest you. She thought for a few seconds, then put as much sarcasm as she could muster into her voice as she said, And You expect me to sign up for some mysterious mission because you need someone? Of course not. I'll run it down for you on 2 conditions. She raised her left eyebrow in question and motioned me to continue. You tell me that you'll honestly consider it, and you give me your word not to tell anyone if you choose not to do it. She was quiet for longer this time, either considering it or playing me. I couldn't tell which. Okay, she said, I'll honestly consider it, and if I don't take it, I won't tell anyone. Fair enough, I said. Here's the short form. For reasons I won't go into, Jose Chung, the Zychek head on Lankin, put a bounty on my head. That's my problem. He also has Zychek buying arms from a private dealer and not reporting those weapons to the FC in the inspections. If anyone could prove to the FC that Zychek was buying those weapons, Zychek would lose power in this region, and the FC would get correspondingly stronger. That's the big play angle at the end. The answer to both problems is the same. We kidnap Chung. I persuade him to drop the bounty and confess to the arms deals, and everyone but Zychek wins. I'd do it alone, but I can't. I'll go over the setup if you decide to help, and you'll get to design the final attack plan with me. A snatch, she said, of the head of one of the 2 biggest corporations in the region? Even if we succeed, no corporation will ever trust me after this. Sure they will, I said, because you'll stay anonymous. Chung will know about me, but he doesn't need to ever see you. You remain a hired gun he never meets. We snatch him, I interrogate him, and persuade him to help me, and then we turn him over to the right FC people. She stood and grabbed her coat. I'll consider it, she said, as I promised. What's the timing? As soon as you can get me an answer, I said. If you're in, we'll go in Lobo. Lobo? She said. My PCAV, I said. The AI is good enough that most of the time I think of it as a person. You need to spend more time around real people, she said. She headed for the door and motioned me to follow. Call me in the morning. We're done until then. I spent the night in Lobo and high orbit over an almost entirely desert continent on the other side of Velna. I considered taking Lim's advice and going into Dishwa to spend some time among people, but I decided not to push my luck in case Zychek Security had a company-wide advisory about the bounty. When I called Lim in the morning, the construct passed me straight through to her. Her face filled the display Lobo opened. I was struck again by her beauty and its effectiveness. Concentration was as hard as she wanted it to be. Earl backed your story, she said, the abruptness of the greeting at odds with the sweet look on her face. He'd love to see us prove Zychek was arming illegally. You forgot to mention he was going to help. Not my place to tell his business, I said, appreciating at the same time how close she and Earl must have been for him to have told her of his possible involvement.
This has been the Bane Free Radio Hour. Thanks for joining us at the heart of science fiction. Join us next week as we continue with part 2 of Jeremy Comeaux in conversation with editor Jamie Ibson and authors Nick Steverson, Melissa Olthoff, and Kacey Ezell discussing the anthology Plausibly Deniable. After that, we'll have more One Jump Ahead with Mark L. Van Name, part 54. Score by Ruth Judkowitz.